you missed part 2, here's what you need to know. Amara discovered that her entire relationship with Kang Chi was orchestrated. Kwan had set her up as leverage. Her family was being controlled. She was trapped. Or so you thought. But the truth is so much darker and so much more powerful than anyone could have imagined. This is part 3. And everything you believe is about to shatter. If you haven't subscribed, do it now. Because what happens in the next 30 minutes will change how you see this entire story forever. Your perspective on love, sacrifice, justice, and what it means to be truly strong, all of it is about to transform. Let's dive in. The coffee shop was empty except for Amara and one other person, her mother, Nkem. But this woman wasn't the helpless figure Amara had been sending money to every month. This wasn't the woman who had raised her with prayers and whispered dreams of escape. This was someone entirely different. Someone harder. Someone with fire in her eyes that Amara had never seen before. Nkem was sitting across from her daughter with a laptop open, going through footage, making notes, moving with the precision of someone who had been doing this for decades. Her fingers flew across the keyboard like she was conducting a symphony. Like she was orchestrating something far larger than either of them could comprehend. "The police are ready," Nkem said quietly, not looking up from the screen. "They have Kwan under surveillance. They have the financial records. They have everything except one thing. And that one thing is you." Amara felt her stomach twist. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Nkem finally looked at her daughter. Her eyes were hard, beautiful, unbreakable, and filled with a kind of sorrow that only comes from having fought battles most people will never know about. "Sit down," Nkem said. It wasn't a request. Amara sat. Her hands were already shaking. "I need to tell you a story," Nkem began. "A story about a girl who came to Seoul 15 years ago. A girl who was supposed to be invisible. A girl who was supposed to be a victim. That girl was me." Amara's breath caught in her throat. Nkem continued, her voice steady and measured. "I was a journalist. Investigative. I was chasing a story about human trafficking networks in West Africa. I got too close. I knew too much. So they decided to teach me a lesson. They trafficked me. Me. A woman with a college degree and a career. They showed me that education and ambition didn't matter. That nobody was untouchable." She paused, letting that sink in. "I was held in a house in Seoul for 6 months, Nkem continued. 6 months of my life stolen, 6 months of my dignity stripped away. And when they finally released me, they told me that if I ever spoke about it, they would come for you. You were 3 years old. 3. And they held that over my head like a sword." Tears were streaming down Nkem's face now, but her voice remained steady, controlled. "I went back to Lagos. I tried to be normal. I tried to pretend that nothing had happened. But I couldn't, because every night I lay awake thinking about the other girls. The girls who didn't have families powerful enough to protect them. The girls who were still trapped in that house. The girls who were going to die invisible." Nkem closed the laptop slowly. "So, I made a choice," she said. "I decided that if they were going to use my daughter as leverage, I was going to use that leverage against them. I became a strategist. I started working with authorities. I started investigating the trafficking networks from the inside, bit by bit, piece by piece. And I built a case. It took 12 years, Amara. 12 years of planning, 12 years of waiting. And then, you turned 18. Amara felt the world shift beneath her feet. The position in Seoul, Nkem said. The job interview that came so easily. The apartment that was already waiting for you. That was me. I placed you there deliberately. I placed you in Kwan's path deliberately, because I had been waiting for the right moment, the right angle, the right way to bring him down without getting you killed. "You sent me to him," Amara whispered. "You knew what he was going to do to me." I sent you to stop him, Nkem corrected, her voice fierce and protective. I didn't send you to be a victim. I sent you to be a weapon against the man who tried to destroy me, a weapon against the system that allows men like him to exist. Amara stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. She was shaking. Her entire body was vibrating with something between anger and understanding. Tell me everything, Amara said. I want to know every detail, every moment that was planned, every moment that was real. Nkem took a breath and began. When you arrived in Seoul, we had people watching you, she explained. The job at the media tower, that was strategic. We needed Kang-chi to see you. We needed him to become obsessed with you. Because Kang-chi was the weakest link in Kwan's operation. He was powerful but morally compromised. He was ambitious but desperate. He was the perfect entry point. So he was part of this the whole time? Amara asked. Not at first, Nkem said. At first, he was just a man who was attracted to you. That part was real. Kwan saw that attraction and exploited it. He went to Kang-chi and made him an offer. He told him about you. He told him that if Kang-chi wanted you, he just had to be patient. He told him that he would make it happen. And then Kwan set the whole thing in motion. Amara walked to the window and looked out at Seoul, the city that had swallowed her, the city that had changed her, the city that had been the stage for a drama she didn't even know she was performing in. The night at the hotel, Amara said, was any of it real? Nkem was quiet for a moment. The drug was real, but monitored, she said finally. We used a formula that would lower your inhibitions but keep you conscious. We needed you aware enough to remember everything. We had officers stationed outside the room. We had cameras recording. Everything was controlled. But the kiss, Amara said, the sex, that was real, wasn't it? Yes, Nkem said, and her voice was softer now. That was real. Because we needed Kang-chi to believe that you were falling for him. We needed him to feel like he had won something. We needed him invested. And for that to work, everything had to be real. Your attraction, your vulnerability, your humanity. All of it. Amara turned around to face her mother. So I was supposed to seduce him. I was supposed to make him believe I loved him. I was supposed to do all of that while secretly documenting everything he did. You were supposed to survive, Nkem said. That's all you were ever supposed to do. Survive. And in doing so, destroy a predator. And did I? Amara asked. Did I do it? Nkem looked at her daughter, this girl who had been shaped by trauma and turned into a warrior without even knowing it, this girl who had sacrificed her own innocence so that others could keep theirs. Yes, Nkem said simply, you did. The next part of the story was even more complex. Nkem explained that Amara's pregnancy hadn't been fake. It was real, but carefully managed. She was 3 weeks pregnant when she discovered it. The medication Nkem had mentioned wasn't to simulate pregnancy. It was to protect the pregnancy while Amara was still in danger. The baby was Kang-chi's. The baby was also going to be the most powerful piece of evidence in the case. You're telling me I'm carrying a child, Amara said slowly. A child that was conceived as part of an operation. You're carrying a child that was conceived in a moment of real connection between two people. Nkem corrected. The operation didn't create that connection. It just used it. The baby is real. The love that created that baby, even if it was complicated and mixed with manipulation, that's real too. Amara put her hand on her stomach. She had been denying it for weeks. But now, hearing it from her mother, it became undeniable. What happens to him? Amara asked. To Kang-chi? He goes to prison, Nkem said. 5 years minimum for complicity and coercion. And he goes to prison not knowing that the woman he loved was sent to him deliberately. Not knowing that she was working against him the entire time, he goes to prison thinking you were a victim who fell in love with him, and he has to live with the knowledge that he destroyed that love by choosing money over your safety. That's cruel, Amara whispered. Yes, Nkem agreed. It is. But sometimes justice requires cruelty. Sometimes the only way to stop a predator is to be willing to use their own weapons against them. The police station was cold and sterile, clinical. Amara sat in a small room with cameras pointing at her from every angle. Her mother was watching from behind the glass. Officers were recording. This was the testimony that would change everything. The prosecutor, a woman named Dr. Park who had spent 15 years fighting trafficking cases, sat across from Amara with a gentle expression and a spine of steel. "Take your time," Dr. Park said. "Tell me everything." And Amara did. She recounted every detail. Not the victim's version, the operative's version. She talked about the drug and how she had remained conscious throughout. She talked about the hotel room and how she had understood what was happening. She talked about the kiss and how it had been strategic. She talked about the sex and how it had been necessary. She talked about loving him and hating him simultaneously, about needing him to believe she was falling for him so that he would become emotionally invested, about every manipulation she had employed while simultaneously being manipulated. The testimony took 3 hours. By the time it was finished, the room was silent. Dr. Park was staring at Amara with a kind of reverence reserved for warriors. "You understand what you've done?" Dr. Park asked quietly. "I've testified against the man I love," Amara said. "I've destroyed his future so that 47 other girls can have one." "No," Dr. Park said. "What you've done is something far more powerful. You've proven that victimhood and strength aren't opposites. You've proven that a woman can be both hunted and a hunter. You've proven that love doesn't have to mean weakness." Amara didn't feel powerful. She felt hollowed out. She felt like she had given away pieces of her soul and there was no way to get them back. The arrest of Kwan came 3 days later. The media descended like vultures. The story was too big to contain. A massive trafficking operation. A CEO complicit in coercion. A young woman who had worked undercover to bring them down. The narrative was irresistible, but the narrative was also incomplete. The public didn't know the full truth. They didn't know that Amara's mother had orchestrated it. They didn't know that Amara wasn't an innocent victim who happened to have courage. They didn't know that she was a trained operative who had been prepared for this role since she was 18 years old. Amara wanted to tell them. She wanted to shout from the rooftops that this wasn't some romantic story where love conquers all. This was a story about sacrifice, about a mother who was willing to use her own daughter as a weapon to stop a predator, about a daughter who was willing to be that weapon, but she couldn't, because the investigation was ongoing, because Kwan had connections, because some truths were too dangerous to tell publicly. So she stayed silent, and she let people believe what they wanted to believe. The trial began 2 weeks later. The courtroom was packed, media everywhere. This was the biggest case Seoul had seen in a decade. The energy was electric and suffocating simultaneously. Amara took the stand in a simple black dress. Her mother was in the gallery watching. The police were watching. And Kang Chi was in the defendant's section, finally understanding the magnitude of what had happened. Finally realizing that the girl he thought he loved was never the victim. The prosecutor walked Amara through her testimony again, this time in front of cameras, this time with Kwan watching her with an expression of pure hatred. This time with Kang Chi watching her with an expression of complete and utter devastation. She recounted everything: the drug, the manipulation, the agreement between Kwan and Kang Chi, the use of her family as leverage, the false pregnancy claim that she had used to manipulate Kwan. All of it. And with every word, she watched Kang Chi's face crumble. She watched him realize that nothing between them had been what he thought it was, that she had been acting, that she had been orchestrating, that she had been using him the entire time. The defense attorney, a man so expensive he probably cost more than Amara's annual salary, stood up for the cross-examination. "Ms. Amara," he said, his voice smooth and practiced, "isn't it true that you deliberately seduced my client? Isn't it true that you led him to believe you cared for him while secretly gathering evidence against him?" Amara looked directly at Kang-chi. She let herself remember the night they spent together. She let herself remember how she had felt in his arms. She let herself remember the moment when she realized she was actually falling for him, despite knowing that she was supposed to be using him. "Yes," she said. Her voice was clear, unwavering. "I did seduce him. I did lead him to believe I cared for him, and I did gather evidence against him. But your question implies that I was doing something wrong, that I was the predator in this situation. And that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what happened here." She turned to address the judge, but kept her eyes on Kang-chi. "Kang-chi had a choice," she said. "Every single moment, he had a choice. When Kwan approached him with the offer to use me as leverage, he could have reported it to authorities. He could have protected me. He could have been honest. Instead, he chose his company. He chose the money. He chose the power. And then, when I came to him, when I was vulnerable, when I trusted him, he exploited that. He took me to his bed knowing that I might have been drugged, knowing that I might not be consenting, knowing all of that, and he did it anyway." Her voice started to shake, but she kept going. "So yes, I seduced him. But he was already a predator. I just gave him permission to be one. And the question isn't whether I'm guilty of seduction. The question is whether he's guilty of exploitation. And the answer to that question is yes." The courtroom went absolutely silent. The cross-examination continued for hours. The defense attorney tried every angle. He tried to make her look like a liar. He tried to make her look like a woman scorned. He tried to make her look like someone willing to destroy an innocent man for revenge. But with every question, Amara became more solid, more certain, more real, because the truth was real, and the truth was that Kang-chi had made a choice, and that choice had consequences. The trial lasted 4 weeks. In the end, Kwan was convicted on 47 counts of human trafficking, coercion, financial crimes, conspiracy, and abuse of power. Life sentence. Minimum 40 years. He would die in prison, his empire crumbling to dust. Kang-chi was convicted on 7 counts of complicity in coercion and failure to report a crime. 5 years. He would be out at 35, his career destroyed but his life salvageable. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was justice nonetheless. The moment the verdict was read, Kang-chi's face went blank. He didn't cry. He didn't react. He just stared straight ahead like someone had removed his ability to feel, like he was finally understanding the full depth of what he had lost. As he was being led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, he passed Amara. Their eyes met for one fraction of a second, and in that moment, he finally understood. She had never been his victim. She had been his executioner. She had been trained for this. She had been prepared for this. And she had executed him with precision and grace. His expression changed from confusion to heartbreak to a kind of hollow resignation, a look that said he finally understood what he had really done, that he had destroyed not just a relationship but a woman's chance at happiness, that he had made a choice that had defined the rest of his life. He mouthed 3 words, "I'm so sorry." Amara didn't respond. She just kept her eyes forward and didn't look back. 6 months later, everything was different. Amara was in Lagos. Not hiding, not running, but building. She had used the settlement money from the lawsuit to start something bigger than herself. An organization called Invisible No More, a support center for trafficking survivors. Girls came here from all over West Africa. Girls came here broken. Girls came here desperate. Girls came here to be rebuilt. She was training a new survivor, a girl named Zuri who had been trafficked from Ivory Coast just 6 months ago. They were in a small office, and Zuri was asking the question that every survivor asked. The question that haunted every woman who had ever been used and then saved. "Did you ever love him?" Zuri whispered. "The man you had to destroy?" Amara paused. She looked at this broken girl and remembered being her. Remembered the weight of impossibility. Remembered thinking that love and survival couldn't exist in the same space. "Yes," Amara said finally. She sat down beside Zuri and took her hands. "I loved him. Or I thought I did. Or maybe I loved the idea of him, the man I wished he could be. A man who was strong enough to protect me instead of using me. A man who was brave enough to choose what was right instead of what was profitable." "Do you regret it?" Zuri asked. "Do you regret loving him?" Amara stood up and walked to the window. Below them, Lagos sprawled endlessly. Millions of girls. Thousands of them trafficked. Hundreds of them being exploited right now. Dozens of them sitting in dark rooms thinking they would never escape. "I regret that I loved someone incapable of loving me back," Amara said. "I regret that he chose money over my safety. I regret that he was weak when I needed him to be strong. I regret every moment I wasted believing that his weakness was somehow my responsibility to fix." She turned back to face Zuri. "But I don't regret testifying against him," she continued. "I don't regret choosing justice over love. I don't regret becoming the instrument of his downfall. Because Zuri, some loves destroy you. And I chose to destroy the love instead of letting it destroy me. I chose to transform that love into something bigger, something that matters more." She gestured around the office. "Every girl we save here, every girl we help rebuild, every girl we transform from victim to survivor to warrior, that's what my love became. That's where I put the energy I was going to waste on Kang-chi. That's the legacy I'm building instead of the life I was going to build with him." Zuri's eyes filled with tears. "Do you think I can be like you? Strong like you?" Amara smiled. A real smile. The kind that only comes after surviving something that should have broken you. "You're already like me," Amara said. "You're already strong. You just don't know it yet. You think strength is about being powerful, about being untouchable, about never being hurt, but that's not what strength is." She knelt down in front of Zuri and looked directly into her eyes. "Strength is getting up every morning knowing that yesterday tried to destroy you," Amara said. "Strength is choosing to heal even when healing hurts. Strength is refusing to let what happened to you become the only thing that defines you. Strength is transforming your pain into purpose. And that's what I'm going to teach you. Not how to be like me, but how to be you. The strongest version of you." She took Zuri's face in her hands gently. "You came to me broken. But you're going to leave here unbreakable, and when you leave, you're going to change the world. Not because you're extraordinary, but because you're ordinary. Because you're a girl who was supposed to disappear and instead, you decided to roar." The final scene took place a year later. Amara was standing in front of a room full of survivors. 20 girls. 30 girls, 50 girls. They ranged in age from 17 to 32. They came from Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Senegal, everywhere. They all had one thing in common. They had all been invisible. They had all been hunted. They had all survived. And now they were becoming warriors. Amara stood in front of them and looked at their faces. Girls with scars. Girls with trauma in their eyes. Girls who had learned that the world wasn't kind. Girls who had learned that love was often a weapon. Girls who had learned that surviving meant becoming harder than the people who tried to break them. "My name is Amara," she said. Her voice filled the room. "And I was invisible. I came to Seoul as a girl who thought she was worthless. I thought that because nobody saw me, I didn't exist. I thought that because I had nothing, I was nothing. And I was wrong. She paused, letting her eyes sweep across every face in the room. I was invisible, she continued, but I was also invisible to the people who wanted to destroy me. I was invisible, which meant I could see them without them seeing me. I was invisible, which meant I could move between worlds that were closed to everyone else. And my invisibility, the thing I thought was my greatest weakness, became my greatest strength. She took a step forward. I came to Seoul invisible, Amara said. I left it a legend. And now I'm here to teach you the same thing. I'm here to teach you that the worst things that happen to us can become the best things we do with our lives. I'm here to teach you that trauma doesn't define you. Purpose defines you. I'm here to teach you that you're not victims, you're survivors. And more than that, you're warriors. She pointed directly at Zuri, who was now helping to facilitate the program. Zuri, who had come broken and left unbreakable. This girl, Amara said, was trafficked for 2 years. 2 years of her life stolen. 2 years of her humanity denied. And now look at her. She's helping other girls find their way back to themselves. She's proof that survival is possible. She's proof that healing is possible. She's proof that you can transform your pain into power. Amara walked through the room, making eye contact with every single girl. You're going to leave here and people are going to look at you and see victims, she said. They're going to pity you. They're going to try to help you. They're going to treat you like you're broken things that need fixing. And some of you might believe them. But I need you to know something. You're not broken. You're forged. You've been through fire and you've come out stronger. She stood in the center of the room, surrounded by her army of survivors. I made a choice, Amara said. A choice to sacrifice my personal happiness for collective justice. A choice to give up the man I loved so that 47 other girls could have their lives back. A choice to transform myself from a victim into a weapon against predators. And I have never regretted that choice. Not for a single moment. Her voice became softer, more intimate. But I want you to know that I'm not asking you to make the same choice, she continued. I'm not asking you to sacrifice your happiness. I'm not asking you to make your pain into your purpose. What I'm asking you to do is take back control of your story. What I'm asking you to do is decide, not for me, not for anyone else, but for you, who you want to become. She looked directly at the camera that was filming this moment, because even though she didn't know it, her story was being documented. Her journey was being recorded. Her legacy was being preserved. I came to Seoul as a victim, Amara said, speaking now to all the women watching, all the girls who needed to hear this. I left it as a revolution. I came to Seoul thinking that love would be my salvation. I left it knowing that I was my own salvation. I came to Seoul invisible. I left it unforgettable. She paused, and in that pause there was power. There was acceptance. There was wisdom earned through suffering. And now, Amara finished, I'm here to help you write the same story. Not the same words, not the same path, but the same transformation, the same journey from invisible to unforgettable, the same revolution. The girls in the room started to cry, not tears of sadness, tears of recognition, tears of hope, tears of understanding that they weren't alone, that their stories mattered, that their pain could become their power. As the scene faded, Amara was shown in her office, working late into the night, reading case files, researching, building evidence, because her work wasn't finished. Her mission wasn't complete. Every girl she saved meant there were dozens more who needed saving. Every survivor she trained meant there were hundreds more who needed training. Kang Chi was in a prison cell in Seoul, staring at the wall. 5 years left on his sentence. 47 years to think about the girl he loved. 47 years to understand that he had destroyed something beautiful because he was too weak to protect it. 47 years to regret the moment he chose money over a woman's safety. But Amara wasn't thinking about him. She was thinking about the girls. She was thinking about the next operation. She was thinking about the next predator who needed to be stopped. She was thinking about the next invisible girl who was about to become unforgettable. Because that's what real love looks like. Not a man and a woman against the world, but a woman and her purpose. A survivor and her revolution. A Mara and her unstoppable mission to transform every victim into a warrior. The real freedom wasn't getting on that plane and disappearing into a new identity. The real freedom was standing still, standing visible, standing strong, and refusing to disappear ever again. The real strength wasn't in surviving Kang-chi. The real strength was in surviving yourself, in becoming who you needed to be, in transforming your trauma into testimony, in choosing justice over love, in choosing purpose over happiness. Amara came to Seoul as a girl with nothing. She left as a woman with everything that mattered. She came to Seoul invisible. She left as a legend. And every girl she touched, every girl she saved, every girl she transformed into a warrior, that was her legacy. That was her love story. That was her triumph. Make sure you're subscribed because this is where the real story ends. Not with a man and a woman, but with a woman and her purpose, with a survivor and her revolution, with Amara and her unbreakable spirit, with you and the realization that you've been watching something extraordinary. Something that reminds you that the greatest love stories aren't about romance, they're about revolution. The comments are waiting for your thoughts. Did you see the twist coming? Did this story change how you see strength? Because strength isn't about winning a man. Strength is about saving yourself, and then saving everyone else.